Hello everyone and welcome back to Let's Play Final Fantasy III. The last part we liberated the Tower of Owen as well as found a horn underground. And in doing so, Goosko kind of basically robbed the dwarves of their main treasure and using their power to enter the cave just above us, the Cave of Fire basically. However, I'm showing you my levels because as I mentioned in the last part I believe, I grinded up to level 22. You should be good around 17, 18. But you want to do this because the boss at the end of this area can be one of the toughest in the game if you're not prepared for it because it actually has some decent stats and attacks to it.
Please tell me that there's like a float function.
Nope. Also, there's a treasure chest here. I accidentally opened it when I was doing my level grinding because I was doing it in here. There was a south wind in that. And I'm not taking damage from the lava right now at all, actually. But there's a reason.
Flame mail,
yes,
right?
In
the ice helm.
If you have equipment that prevents you from taking a certain element's damage, it will prevent you from taking that damage. And here we have the first enemy for the part, the Krakata, how do you pronounce that?
Krakatoa!
Exactly. Krakatoas have 150 HP, 200 XP, 135 gil, and they're weak to ice, as most things in here are, but they can't drop anything. They're pretty basic enemies. The freezing blade, if you can get that, I don't even think you can get that at this point, actually.
Oh,
and
Krakata.
Yeah, Krakata. I can only really see Krakatoa. The Blizzard spell is your best bet. However, I do recommend you save your Blizzard spells if you have any for the boss fight. Also recommendable, save your mute spells. Because there's one particular enemy here you really just want to save them for.
Okay, so the next enemy on our list is a balloon. It's a type of bomb, of course. Hello. Oh, yeah, there it is. It has 143 HP, 180 EXP, and 125 gold.
And I am
weak to ice like normal things. It's also weak to water. And it drops high potions and a bomb arm, which I assume is a fire 2 thing.
Basically. And then there's the Red Mallow, our first, I think it's our first plant type enemy in this game. 155 HP, 200 XP, 140 gil. No real weaknesses aside to fire, and it can't drop anything. But the interesting thing, at least about the NES version, is that most of the Flan type enemies actually do not have perfect defense unlike later games, so you can actually physically attack them fairly well. Bit odd going back, but I'll take it. Makes it easier.
Whew.
Also, water type attacks. What are you talking about? There's no water type attacks in this game. I don't think that's until the DS version.
I didn't read off the DS. I read off the NES.
That's odd. Actually, what did I just pick up in that chest? Because I don't have my notes up right now. Here it is. That would be probably the Ice Blade. Okay, so I was a bit ahead of time when it comes to getting this Blizzard Blade.
The Ice Brand!
You can now really do damage to these things in here. However, waterfalls will still damage me despite my elemental immunities, so that kind of sucks, but it's only 1 or 2 damage. One thing I actually have to give Final Fantasy III over one, especially 1 and ever so slightly 2, is that, one exception aside, the dungeons are a lot less so endurance rounds like they were in Final Fantasies 1 and 2. You can make it through these fairly easily with your basic stats, really. Either way, next enemy is a Milmacorio. 147 HP, 200 XP, 130 gil, weak to ice. Doesn't drop anything, but it can its attacks can petrify you. And this is what you want to save your highest level spell charges for, particularly mute if you want to use it on them. Purely because that would prevent them from using their it's basically a break attack, but it's technically a physical attack as well.
Wait, then why does mute prevent them from doing
3 is a bit inconsistent about what that counts as a spell and what it counts as a physical attack. Sometimes mute can prevent status elements from going through, I believe, is the way it works. But you really just want to get it off on them. Plus, it gives Refia something to actually do.
That's true. Well, I mean, Refia is probably going to be using Holy soon, right?
I don't think I ever get her Holy, because Holy is, I think, a level 8 spell, and not many of the level 8 spells are too worth using in my eyes in the NES version, at least. They can do high damage, but more often than not, when we get to there, eventually in like 4 or 5 parts, you can use lower level spells to do almost the exact same amount of damage for less. Well, I say for less, as if I'm using the same amount of spell charges, but level spell charges are still a thing here. Though I will say, I think I brought this up in part 1 as well. Unlike Final Fantasy 1, you do not need to worry about spell charges. As long as you're at a decent level, you will have more than enough in most instances. Also, I recommend healing right about now because we're coming up on the boss fight for the area.
Already?
Yeah, the fire cave is very short. It's the boss that can give you the most trouble if you're underleveled.
Ooh, it's the Crystal of Fire.
And Gooseco actually wants to use its fire power in order to basically conquer the world, but since we're alive, he can't access all of it.
It's an evil Charmander. Actually, I don't even know. This is the Salamandr. It has a 2100 HP, 700 EXP, 1800 gold, weak to cold, weak to cold, there we go, weak to ice. It can do a pretty devastating flame attack, probably.
Yeah, it'll do about 200 damage, 300. Best way to go, have your melees attack, have Ingus or whoever your black mage is, or if you even have a red mage, use
Did
Ice
he
Fury.
even get a chance to attack?
Nope, I kind of overleveled just a little bit.
Well, that's not fair. I like to give the enemies at least a little bit of a chance.
I do usually too, but I have nightmares of this guy from my first playthrough, so that was vengeance on my part.
Really?
Yep, I hated that guy in my first playthrough.
But, like,
Either
why?
way, Flame was doing about a third of my health, and I was not doing nearly that much damage. Either way, there we ended up getting more job classes from the crystals. In terms of what we got Hunter, Knight, Thief, and Scholar, so from now on, first off, I'll be adding steals to enemies, even though most of them are basically the same. Hunter is basically the little bow users from Final Fantasy 5. They can use some light magic, but they're not really worth using at this point. Scholar is basically useless aside from one use later on. So the only real class of note to use here is the Knight, which is a pure upgrade to the fighter.
Sad there's no rapid fire in Spellblade. That combo kills.
Yeah, it does. The Thief can potentially be useful, because he's actually more damaging, I believe, than the Knight, or I might be thinking of another job class later on, for a good while. But he gets outclassed eventually, and the Knight will just keep on getting more and more better stuff. Either way, now that we've done that, I'm actually back in the Dwarf Cave, and someone's apparently looking for us. Tokkle is being attacked again.
Oh no!
So we should probably head back there, but this guy's actually giving us an important detail. Hein, the enemy leader, hides his weak point, but the Scholar can see through it and know what it is. That's the only use I have for a Scholar in the original version. Either way, this guy's gonna moonwalk for us.
Boy. Ah!
That took me about 20 minutes to do, by the way.
Oh!
You could actually, I believe, have come down here earlier, or at least use this pool, but you wouldn't be able to access all the items in this general direction, and there are a lot of them. We're actually going to get some books here, too, I believe, on the top row. The books are based... Oh, no, they are there. They're the basic weapon for the Scholar class. Not much of it's useful for me, though. In terms of what I'm going to be equipping to people that I got from this bunch, the Gauntlet that I just got there is going on Luneth. The Scholar Robe's going on Ingus, because I believe Refia already has one. The Scholar Helm's going on Refia. The Knight Armor's going to go on Luneth, but I'm going to store the Flame Mail I just took off in the Fat Chocobo for way later in the game, because I actually have a use for it then. And that's about it. Shield you basically can sell, as well as the books. The Carrot I would actually recommend to use to store that Flame Mail. And that's about it. Also in there, I actually got something called an Otter Head. A very oddly named item. It is the exit spell.
Otter Head?
I don't get it either. In fact, you know what? I'm going to look that up. But it was in the original, in the DS version. Probably something much more sensical.
I mean, it's the DS version, so what do you say?
Otter Shroom. Okay, that makes even less sense.
Otter Shroom. Maybe it's a hallucinogenic drug that makes you think, oh, we're being transported.
Maybe if I look at the specific details, it'll actually tell us something.
Well,
Either way,
no,
we were told to go over to this living forest a while back, so now if we do that, we can actually learn what's going on. Hein, who was basically King Argas's chancellor, went psycho, stole the eldest tree from this living forest, made it into his castle, and is trying to conquer the world with it.
A Psycho
So-
Chancellor. Doesn't that sound familiar?
It's like it's every RPG ever. Ooh.
It's about
Though on the-
time we learned our lesson.
On the plus side, I actually have to say Final Fantasy 15 actually did a good job of that trope. That had one of the most memorable villains in the longest time. So let's check out Tokkle now and flashing lights.
Every time I hear Tokkle, I keep thinking you're gonna say Takumi.
Oh boy. We are apparently getting imprisoned in Hinds Castle. Shit.
That's very Fire Emblem, not Fire Emblem. That's very Final Fantasy V-esque.
Yeah. So welcome to Hinds Castle. It's very planty. And this right here is actually King Argas. But one thing to note, that soldier who just talked about Hein stealing the king's sword, the king's sword is actually a weapon you can find in this place, and it's pretty good, so you really want to find that.
Is it Tearfang? Ah.
No, dude, we've already gone over the Tearfang. It's a red mage weapon only.
I know, I'm kidding. It's because of Fire Emblem 4.
Let it go. Either way, next enemy is a demon. Kind of blunt. 171 HP, 288 XP, 158 gil. No weaknesses, but you can steal wooden arrow, holy arrow, iron arrow, and bolt arrows from it, and it drops those exact same things. Best strategy, go all out against it. Similarly to Final Fantasy 1, that is honestly one of the best strategies you can use for a lot of the enemies.
That's what I don't really like about the older Final Fantasy games. Like even 4, it's like more go all out, but for some enemies it's go all out, but for others it's tactical in the later games. So I don't know. I like having strategy in my.
1 through 3 are very on and off about it. Some fights you can only use strategy, some you can just go all out. 3 I think has the best balance between the two, but it took till the Super Nintendo I think to really hit the true balance. Either way, we need to mini ourselves using some of the luck mallets that guy who just died gave us in order to get through that hole he carved. And now that we're through, we need to immediately unmini ourselves, because no way in hell am I surviving this place mini.
Yeah, not with that attitude.
No, there's actually some kind of tough enemies in here. I think there's one enemy I
Like
never
evil
ran into,
Egyptian undead pharaohs. Those are one example of evil things here. 160 HP, 240 XP, 145 gil, weak to fire and light. They drop eye drops and antidotes, and you can also steal those from them because now we have the thief ability. So.
And as you might be able to tell based off the fact they're mummies, they're also undead. Same with the lemrates, also called lemurs in later translations for some reason, by the way. 164 HP, 240 XP, 150 gil, weak to fire and light. I can steal a potion. That's about it, really.
So glare is a sleep spell. I don't know about in the DS version or anything, but it seems that in this game it's a consistent.
I swear I've
sleep
seen it
spell.
do other things, but mind you, maybe I'm thinking of like maybe there's a similarly named attack called like stare or something. Mind you, I only really take note of enemies that have really devastating attacks when I have at least one party member die from them at one point or another.
Aha! Salamander flame.
Yeah. God. You really do want to be around my level in the DS version, by the way. Oh God, Sneck!
Lamia! Oh God. Well, hopefully she's not gonna seduce us like she did in FF2. That was scary. Although that was Queen Lamia, to be fair. 168 HP, 240 XP, 155 gold. She is weak to nothing, and she drops potions and the usual level 1 spell items.
Yeah. Nothing really annoying about her.
Does she use confusion this time around?
She might.
I can check that right now, actually, because I have the wiki page.
It might be one of her later cousins that does that.
Glare can inflict confuse. It depends on the enemy.
That confirms it then. That's really weird that they would do that. Maybe I forget what the DS version does. Maybe they'd rename them slightly. Either way, if you want to actually progress in the dungeon, you just want to head around this giant block to the north. But I want to come in here and get some items, namely a good amount of gil. Because money is good. Greed is good.
Greed? Get out of here, Scrooge. You have Tiny Tim's innocent blood on your hands.
Need to have more money. Yeah, I'm referencing things, yay.
Good YouTubers always reference things. That's why
Exactly.
I'm so bad, because I'm so bad at referencing things.
Ooh. Either way, there is the King's Sword, which is a pretty sizable increase in attack. In fact, for a while after this, The basic strategy in terms of Luneth's swords is to have the King Sword along with one of these 3 elemental blades. That won't persist for too long. I'd say maybe a part at the most, but it's a pretty decent chunk of the game, all things considered. Considering this LP, and Final Fantasy 3 in general, really, is pretty close to the same length as Final Fantasy 2, but just a little bit longer.
I also love how they spelled Phoenix End with an F all the way through, I think Final Fantasy 7, actually.
I know Final Fantasy 3 did that. I forget. I don't think the
4 did it. 5.
I don't think 4 did it like that, did it?
Maybe 4. I don't. I know 6 did it with an F.
Yeah, 6 definitely did it, and I won't be surprised if the reason they did that in this is because they still needed the same amount of character spaces. Either way, in that little pause there, I actually turned Arc into a Scholar because the one use a Scholar has in the NES version is coming up. In the DS version, they're a lot more useful, but not so much here. I have nothing on him. He's in the back row because he's going to be doing one action throughout the fight anyway. So here's the traitor Hein, who, by the way, very odd character design because his face is a skull. Hein has 1600 HP, 1040 XP, 2100 gil, and can be either weak to fire, cold, or thunder. The reason that depends is because he has
Barrier
wall
shift
change.
spell!
Yeah, when he uses that, his weakness changes. You can tell what he's immediately weak to, though, by using the Scholars in scan command. So right now, he's weak to ice. But I think it's either after you hit him with that weakness, or it's just random chance, he'll switch to either fire or thunder, or he can also stay cold. Besides that, he can also use the level 2 spells, fire 2, ice 2, bolt 2, all that kind of jazz.
I still think the worst barrier shift is the Magimaster.
Yeah, that one's pretty
6.
bad. For me, though, it'll always be DS Golbez, because, God, DS Golbez took me an hour.
Okay. I kind of forgot about DS Golbez for a bit there.
Well, you haven't played the DS version, have you?
I have not played the DS version, but I have seen and heard.
Seeing and hearing is only one thing, dude. Playing it is something else entirely. Ugh.
Oh, I know. That's why I'm going to try and play the DS version of 4 and not the Super Nintendo version.
Either way,
I might play the Super Nintendo sometime.
I took out Hein fairly easily, but that's just because I had the levels that could make him not a pain in the ass. But if you are around level 17, 18, he can actually give you some trouble due to his higher damage output. But as long as you have someone constantly healing and the Scholar constantly scanning, you shouldn't have much issue doing damage to him.
I couldn't quite understand the dialogue because it was going by a little bit too quickly. What was the deal with him?
Basically, the power of darkness swayed him to evil, and then he did the whole thing with the tree. And now that we've defeated him, the tree, which is actually sentient, by the way, is going back to the living forest and is bringing all of us back.
So a good guy turned bad.
Yeah. Basically, it's Kingdom Hearts. Darkness. Actually, I say that, but that's a pretty apt comparison for the later half of the game. And now the fairies are going to be thanking us for restoring the tree, which, by the way, this whole living forest thing reminds me oddly of 5. Well, retroactively. And then for doing that, they gave us the Wind Fang. Yet again, like the Water Fang, it's basically the loot. We'll be holding on to that in our inventory permanently until we can eventually use it. So that's now 2 spaces of our roughly 30-something space inventory that are being taken up.
1/15. Yay, fractions.
Ugh. I understand, really, that key items weren't really a thing until later Final Fantasy entries, but I really wish they had made it so that you could have more inventory space here in 3, or at least put them somewhere else.
I like what they did in 6, where they separated the key items from the...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Either way, now that we've rescued everyone, Castle Argas is now actually repopulated. So let's go talk to people around the round table, which very odd reference to Arthurian legend. And this guy's telling us some interesting things. First off, he tells us a little extra thing about the knight. The knight will actually automatically guard people who are at low HP. That's how you figured out that that one candle was a door earlier. Thieves can open up magic key doors without that key. And for talking to the king, we're getting the time gear, which will allow us to upgrade something into an airship.
This is not Pokemon Mystery Dungeon.
Oh, that's right. They were called time gears, weren't they? Huh. I haven't played Mystery Dungeon 2 in a long time.
Okay, we need to get back to playing that soon. Hopefully soon.
Yeah.
Because, my god. It's super fun getting to do it with you.
Yeah.
Especially considering all the stuff that happens.
Also, a fun little fact, I didn't know this for a few playthroughs, you can actually get 2 elixirs from this white mage up in here in this room. But it also opens up one of the more problematic things about the magic key system. You have to use another magic key on a door if you have already used it before. If you have a thief, you can get through there, no issue, but I don't. So like,
can't you just change that? Can't you just change them into a thief?
Yeah, but that would take up
that
precious
way?
capacity, and nah.
Oh yeah, I forgot. You can't change classes freely in this game because it's...
Yeah, but we got the time gear from King Argas, so let's use this on Sid. He's going to turn the Enterprise into an airship. Gee, I wonder what that's a reference to.
You shouldn't... Ugh. The Enterprise. Mm-hmm.
But now, if we actually get in our ship, we can actually press the A button and turn it into an airship. It can't land on land yet, or if ever, really. It's only ever available to land in the water, but it's an improvement. But with that, we now have free reign of an airship on the floating continent, so now let's fly on off of it and see what the rest of the world looks like. Oh. That's a lot of water.
So much water.
Let's take a look at the map with the sight spell and see what it looks like, see if we can see anything.
Whoa.
Let's talk about Waterworld.
Just like Hoenn region, too much water.
This entire world map is basically covered in water. There are only 1 or 2 points that aren't covered in water. That's actually one of the main reasons I got the sight spell earlier, so I could actually find my way around here without wandering for 20 minutes. In the DS version, I believe this was altered so that it's actually covered in darkness. But as you can see, there's some land there, and that actually is one of my main ways to figure out where to go next. Because the 2 locations really that have land uncovered are fairly close together.
But why did it end up like this?
You're gonna need to find out eventually. And by that I mean like the next 20 minutes of gameplay.
Well, I mean, in the DS version, I think it makes more sense if it's darkness.
Yeah, because you can't really land on darkness. Also, I apologize if this looks really weird. Whoa, that's a thing. Keep that in mind for later. I apologize, by the way, if the video looks like crap when this is going on, because even when I noticed if someone was editing it, it looked like there were frames where basically I stopped moving. And there were 1 or 2 cases where I do, but I assure you, for most of the time, I'm completely moving. But here's a land mass we can land on.
That looks like the either Mithril or Adamant Island. I don't know why.
Actually, yeah, it kind of does. But there's a random shipwreck here. Let's see what we can find down here. Very somber music, that's for certain. And here we get a blood sword. Sorry for that silence, by the way. Someone walked into Kenny's room and he needed to talk to something. There we got the blood sword. It does the exact same thing it did in Final Fantasy II, only it's not as useful. And as that guy said, basically, they're the only 2 surviving. These 2 are the only 2 surviving people in the world right now. This lady here who knows something about the crystal, so she's actually going to accompany us towards where the Temple of Water is. And that guy over there who's just from some random village. I forget who mentions it. Oh, here we are. The water crystal actually did protect all the citizens of the world by turning them into statues when it flooded everything. But it's still our duty as the Heroes of Light to get everything right again.
So the water crystal still needs to be restored, because we restored the crystals of wind and fire.
And then there's also the crystal of earth, which is kind of our goal, actually, for most of the rest of the second world, is getting the last 2 crystals. But now that we have this girl in tow, I forget what her name is, I think it's Ellie or something, we can actually progress towards the other area.
I wish there was a submarine function in this game. There probably might be at some point. Oh.
Maybe. Oh. Either way, now we need to find the other area of this world that's not submerged in water, which is thankfully much easier to find because basically, if you remember that giant thing of mountains I found earlier, there's like 3 of those in a row heading north. Just follow those and you're fine. Though I do like this entire idea here, because this is actually a pretty eerie sight to come out to when you first leave, like, what's a fairly happy area of the world. Either way, welcome to the Temple of Water, but with that, we're gonna need to end this off here. Thank you guys for watching.
Thank you guys for watching.
You're mimicking me.
Ha ha ha.
And in part...
part 6.
He's actually intentionally mimicking me. Great.
And in part 6, we'll be working on trying to get that water crystal and fixing whatever's going on with this second world. And we'll see you guys then.
He stole my outro. No!